Welcome to all. In this video, we are going to see about the methods involved in ore concentration. So before entering into the topic of ore concentration, let us see what is ore concentration. So before entering into ore concentration, let us see the metallurgical processes. So what do you mean by a metal and what do you mean by metallurgy? So metallurgy relate to the science and technology of metals. So from the available sources, we can extract the pure metal. So the processes involved in the extraction of metals are called metallurgy. A naturally occurring substance obtained by mining which contains the metal in free state or in the form of compounds like oxides or sulfide, which is called a mineral. Minerals that contain a high percentage of metal. There may be so many minerals available, but the minerals in which the metal should contain in a high percentage and also which can be extracted conveniently and economically are called ores. So hence all metals are not ores, but all ores are included in the minerals. The extraction of the metal of interest from its ore consists of majorly three main classification of metallurgical processes. The first step is concentration of the ore, and the second step is extraction of crude metal from the concentrated ore, and the third step is refining of the crude metal to get it in a pure form. The extraction of crude metals from the concentrated ore is carried out in two steps, namely conversion of the ore into oxides of the metal of interest and reduction of the metal oxides to elemental metals. So, he is the person called Harold Johann Thomas Ellingham. So, he was a British physical chemist. He was a British physical chemist. He did enormous work in the field of metallurgy. So many metallurgical processes. So he only established. So occurrence of metals. First, we have to find out from where we can able to get the metals. In general, pure metals are shiny and malleable. However, most of them are found in nature as compounds with different properties. So, for example, metal having least chemical reactivity such as copper, silver, gold and platinum occur in significant amounts as native elements. Reactive metals such as alkali metals usually occurs in their combined state with other elements and are extracted using suitable metallurgical processes. So in the screen you are seeing a metal means a mineral of copper, so which is nothing but malachite. So before entering into the subject, what do you mean by a mineral and what do you mean by a ore? A naturally occurring substance obtained by mining which contains the metal in free state or in the form of compounds like oxides and sulfides is called mineral. However, from which mineral the necessary material can be extracted conveniently and economically are called ores. Hence, all ores are minerals, but all the minerals are not ores. So, these are all the three main classification of metallurgical processes. First step is ore concentration, and the second one is isolation, and the third step is purification. So what do you mean by metallurgy? Again the three steps involved: concentration of ore and isolation of metal from concentrated ore and purification of the metal. So these are all the total process of metallurgy. So the first step, the ore can be converted into a powdered ore. Next step is ore concentration. So the ore concentration involves 4 or 5 processes. One is hydraulic washing, and the second one is froth flotation, and the third one is magnetic separation, and the fourth one is electrostatic separation, and the fifth one is leaching. So during the process of ore concentration, we are removing the gangue materials. After the ore concentration, the concentrated ore can be converted into a crude metal by 5 different processes. After getting the crude metal, we can get the pure metal from the crude metal. The process is called refining or extra purification, by which we can get a pure metal from the impure metal. So today in this video we are going to see only about the ore concentration processes. So before entering into the ore concentration processes, so what do you mean by a mineral, ore and flux? Because all those terms we are going to use in the upcoming slides. So mineral. So what do you mean by mineral? A solid, naturally occurring inorganic substance formed by geological processes is called a mineral. Then what do you mean by a ore? A naturally occurring solid material from which a metal or valuable mineral can be extracted is called a ore. And what do you mean by flux? It is a chemical cleaning agent used for purification of the ores. And what do you mean by slag? Slag is nothing but the waste matter separated from metals during the extraction process. And what do you mean by gangue? During the mining process, gangue is commercially worthless material that surrounds or it closely mixed with the it can be unwanted material, but it is closely mixed with the wanted material in an ore deposit. So we can remove the gangue material by ore concentration processes. So minerals, again, the combined state of metal is in the earth crust is called minerals. Most of the cases, the minerals are available in the form of oxides or carbonates. And ore is nothing but the mineral from which the metal is economically and commercially extracted. For example, for aluminium extraction, we can use the mineral bauxite as its ore. And for iron, we can use hematite as a ore. All ores are minerals, but all minerals are not ores. And gangue, what do you mean by gangue material? So impurities present in minerals such as silicates and rock pieces and some sands like materials are called gangue. So metallurgical processes. So in the previous slides I have told 3 main processes. One is ore concentration, and from the concentrated ore we can extract the metal and refining the impure metal into a pure form. So in addition to that, another one step is crushing and pulverization, in which high and huge pieces of the minerals can be broken into small pieces. So huge pieces are broken into small pieces. So this process is called crushing and pulverization. So after crushing and pulverization, we can get a good ore of a mineral, from which we can able to isolate our metal. So the ore concentration processes involved 3 or 4 major steps. One is gravity separation, which is otherwise called hydraulic washing, and the second process is froth flotation, and the third one is magnetic separation, and the fourth one is leaching. So we are going to see one by one. First process is gravity separation or hydraulic washing. So in the process of gravity separation, from the ores, the contents present in the ores can be separated based on their mass or weight. So for these processes, it is similar to our water washing in a domestic cooking processes. So during our cooking process cooking process, we used to wash our materials in a bowl. So while washing, the suspended lightweight particles can go along with the water, and the high mass big particles can retain in the bowl. So here in the gravity separation or hydraulic washing processes, we normally use one slanting stepwise denser particles or ore. So slanting part, in that a jet of water is passed. So while passing the water, we are putting the ore into that. So while passing through the slide, the denser ore particles can retain in the gap in between the slanting area, and the lighter particle and gangue particle will comes along with the water. So this table is a vibrating table. So it will use to vibrate. So while vibration, the high weight particles stay in the gaps of the slanting part, and the suspended and lightweight particles will come along with the water particle, and it will be collected as a gangue particles. So this is another diagram in which the processes of gravity separation or hydraulic washing done in a major quantity. So from the top, the ore is poured into the flow of water, and during the flow of water, the higher gravitationally higher molecular, higher weight mass particles retain in the steps itself, and the lighter particles alone will go along with the water and collected at the bottom. So this is called hydraulic washing or gravity separation. And the next processes involved in the ore concentration is froth flotation. So it is nothing but froth flotation. So here froth is formed in between the process. So normally sulfide ores are concentrated using this froth flotation process. So here this is the apparatus or container for the froth flotation processes. So here inside the container, a blade is there which is connected with a motor. A blade or rotating blade is there inside the solution, and it is connected with a motor. So here inside the solution, the ore which can be concentrated is added. Normally sulfide ores are concentrated. This method is commonly used to concentrate sulfide ores such as galena, which is nothing but lead sulfide, and zinc blende, which is nothing but zinc sulfide. In this method, the metallic ore particles which are preferentially wetted by oil can be separated from the gangue material. So in this method, the gangue particles are wetted by water, settle at the bottom. Here we are taking the sulfide ores inside the container, and the motor is connected with a stirrer, and for adding these are all some more additives which can be used in the froth flotation processes. One is pine oil. Pine oil will be added for collecting the froth, and froth stabilizers are nothing but aniline and cresol, and the depressants are nothing but sodium cyanide and zinc sulfide. Okay, so during the process of here before starting the process of froth flotation, so the compressed air will be passed through the tube, and the sulfide ore particles are concentrated using this method, and the water containing pine oil. So now inside the container water is there, along with water pine oil is there, and inside that sulfide ores which has to be concentrated will be added. And while we are passing compressed air, and the blade which is rotating, and it will form froth, because sulfide ores only can form froth. The froth is suspended above the liquid. The froth bubbles carrying the sulfide ore particles, which comes above the liquid surface, and the gang particles will stay at the bottom, below the container, which is not inside the container, at the bottom. So in this diagram also you can be able to visualize clearly about the froth flotation process. So here, using the blade, the motor is rotating, and for mixing the pine oil and the sulfide ores and water, and the bubbles are forming, and the bubbles are entering and the above of the liquid surface as froth, and the froth will be collected in the right side using a separate container. The froth contains the sulfide ores. Only the sulfide ores can form froth, and the froth will be collected in a separate container which is adjacent to the main container, and remaining gang materials will settle at the bottom. So now this froth can be dried off to get the concentrated ore. So ore which is collected initially may contains a lot of gang materials. By using this froth flotation process, the sulfide ores are converted into a froth form and collected in a separate container, and the remaining gang materials will retain in the container itself, which is settled at the bottom, which we can see in the picture, which is gang metals are removed now. Only the froth is collected for the next step, and the froth contains the sulfide ores. So this method is called froth flotation. Here also the same with a different presentation. So pulp of ore and oil collected, and the paddle draws in the air and stirs the pulp, and the mineral froth, which is a sulfide mineral, and above that the rotating paddle which is connected with a motor, and the air is passed, compressed air is passed. This froth will be collected. So this method is called froth flotation method. Thank you.
இந்த வீடியோ உங்களுக்கு பிடிச்சதுன்னா லைக் பண்ணுங்க, ஷேர் பண்ணுங்க, கமெண்ட் பண்ணுங்க, சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணுங்க. மறக்காம பக்கத்துல இருக்க பெல் ஐகானை கிளிக் பண்ணுங்க.